Part 9. At that time, Big Schwa was completely broke, flat out penniless. He owed rent to the family motel and was desperately trying to find work. But with his hot temper and zero patience, he couldn't hold down a job for long. He'd get into arguments, quit, or get fired, and end up doing day labor whenever something came up. On a good day, he might earn $100 or so, most of which went straight into cigarettes and cheap beer. His go-to combo: 3 bottles of Cobra beer for $10, big bottles, 2 and white Marlboros, which back then were only $3 a pack. The beer price hadn't changed much, but Marlboros? They're now triple that. After food and rent, he barely had anything left. Whenever he ran out of money, he'd sit all day at the labor agency waiting for work. His favorite gig was demolition, smashing down walls and cabinets with a hammer. No thinking, just swing, he used to say. Contractors liked hiring him, too. He worked as hard as 2 or 3 men and could also translate for them when needed. They'd pay him $80 a day plus lunch, and everyone was happy. When he had enough cash to get by, he'd spend his time reading thick English novels and biographies. Back in China, he had worked as a translator and even published 2 books, Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. He treated me really well. He said most people looked at him like he was some circus gorilla, huge, strange, not quite human, and it made him feel humiliated. Living at that motel, he was surrounded by people he thought were shallow, obsessed with money, with no faith and no respect for anything greater than themselves. I think he liked talking to me because I didn't argue, didn't judge, and actually listened. Looking back, I owe him more than I can ever repay. He helped me countless times later on. Under his bed, he kept a big burlap sack. He called it his luggage, but really it was his treasure chest. Inside were old books he'd picked up at thrift stores and a bunch of rocks he'd collected while working construction around the country. He claimed some were valuable. One was chicken bloodstone, another a piece of jade. Americans don't know what these are worth, he'd tell me proudly. He said he used to join amateur geology expeditions in college, and his father had been a well-known rock collector back in China. I had no idea if any of it was true, but I nodded along anyway. Maybe that's why he liked me. I didn't burst his bubble. That first night in America, it was still hot. The air inside the room was thick and suffocating. Big Schwa, shirtless, dragged his mattress out to the courtyard to sleep under the open sky. I stayed inside, scrolling endlessly through Los Angeles Chinese forums on my phone, trying to figure out how to start a new life. Eventually, boredom and exhaustion won. Still holding my phone, I drifted off into my first sleep on American soil.